Hey world, welcome back to Nerdy Keith. So how's it going, by the way? I hope you're all coping okay with the global pandemic. Speaking of the global pandemic, one of the ways in which many of us have been coping with the pandemic, especially during lockdowns, is by catching up on our watch lists on Netflix or really any streaming service whatsoever. So yes, this video is kind of a review video of sorts. Think of it as a lightning round review video. So I'm going to go through some of the TV shows I've been catching up with during these crazy times. So, with all that said, let's just get into it. First up, we have Once Upon a Time. Now, this is one of these TV shows that I never really got around to finishing, so it's something that I kind of started, stopped, and then kind of went back to finish the entire thing off. So basically, all fairy tale characters are real. The main character is the daughter of Snow White and Prince Charming. There's a big curse, and many of the characters from the Enchanted Forest are sent to our world, and none of them seem to have their memories intact or have any clue of who they really are. Spoiler alert, they eventually figure out who they are. For the most part, I like this show. It did, however, get a little bit repetitive with some of the storylines and story arcs, and the final season kind of came off as very rushed and very forced. Certainly not as good as the rest of the seasons. They had a really great musical episode because it's kind of weird having a Disney show with all of these Disney characters, particularly Disney characters from fairy tales who don't sing, so it was nice to eventually see them sing. Especially when it came to Captain Hook's song. His song was by far the best of the entire musical episode. The next show for me to binge watch was DC Titans. This is a Netflix original. DC Titans is basically DC's answer to Marvel's Defenders, but way better, in my opinion. DC certainly don't always get things right, but when it comes to their TV shows, in my opinion, they tend to hit all of the bars, and this show is no exception. So Dick Grayson, aka Robin, joins forces with a band of other superheroes to recreate the supergroup The Titans. I had already seen season 1 upon its release, so I decided to watch season 2, and for the most part, I liked it. Season 1, while being a very solid season, only gets the ball rolling, so to speak, in terms of who the characters are, what the objectives here are, and where this story is going exactly. Now in season 2, we certainly get to know our characters a lot more. We get a little bit more insight into their backstory and into them as characters. There's a lot more characterization going on for sure. My only problem with season 2 is that it tries to focus on too many different story arcs all at once. It might have been better to stick to one main story for season 2 and consider those other story arcs for future seasons. But even with that, it still managed to work really well. It did have some very interesting elements to the stories, and we really do get to know these characters a lot more. My favorite character of Titans has got to be Gareth. He's certainly the most noble of all of the Titans. Next show I watched was Riverdale. Group of high school students who aim to solve mysteries in the town of Riverdale. So this show covers on a lot of dark material, especially in terms of gang rivalry and drug usage, also politics and relationships. One of the main piece of criticism that I see in regards to Riverdale is that it kind of has turned this entire show into a bit of a soap opera. Personally, I like the drama that's in the show. It makes it really interesting. I also really love the monologues performed by Cole Sprouse as Jughead. I think it really sets the tone of every episode, and indeed the entire series for that matter. I think most people agree that season 1 and season 2 of Riverdale are definitely the strongest. Season 3 and 4, certainly not the strongest. Something that a lot of people are not crazy about is the musical episodes in Riverdale. Personally, I really love them. I am a big musical fan, so there's no complaints from me whenever a musical episode comes up. I especially like the Hedwig special episode. That was pretty awesome, and the performances all around, especially in regards to singing performance, are pretty amazing when it comes to the Riverdale Hedwig special episode. So I'm looking forward to season 5. I hope it is a massive improvement from season 3 and 4. Next we have Marvel's Jessica Jones, aka the alcoholic superhero. With all jokes aside, Jessica Jones is a pretty unique superhero. She's a superhero, or rather a former superhero, going through post-traumatic stress, and she does develop quite a fair alcohol addiction, and she becomes a private detective. So I had already seen season 1 and season 2 of this show, had been putting off season 3 for quite a bit, possibly mostly because I know that this is the last season ever of Jessica Jones. Season 1 was amazing. It had an amazing villain and had an amazing story arc, and you really got to know Jessica Jones and got to know what she was all about. And then when we get to season 2, I gotta admit, that was a disappointment. It certainly wasn't as great as season 1. It did get kind of interesting when her mother is involved in this season, but it's clearly not as good as season 1. Now, when season 3 comes around, I gotta say, that certainly did make up for a lot of the disappointment that a lot of the fans felt when watching season 2. If anything, season 3 was just a great send-off. There was much more interesting conflicts between Jessica and Trish, and then there was some follow-up of the events of season 2, in which was relevant to the goings-on of Trish and Jessica's mother in season 2. I really loved that Trish was putting herself out there to be her own superhero, while at the same time realizing what being a superhero is really like. As I say, this really was a great send-off for Jessica Jones. It was a really great way to wrap everything up as a Jessica Jones trilogy. Next up, we have the Netflix original, A Series of Unfortunate Events, not to be confused by the Jim Carrey movie. This version is of course starring Neil Patrick Harris. The story is about 3 children, Klaus, Sonny and Violet Baudelaire, whose parents tragically die in a fire, after which the children are sent to live with a series of different relatives, one of which is Count Olaf, who makes it his life's goal to steal their inheritance with a series of schemes and plans. This truly was a beautiful series. I haven't read the books myself, but I have heard from many who have that this is about as true to the books as you can get. Love the fact that they have a Lemony Snicket character and narrating each episode. All of the actors are amazing in this, and not just Neil Patrick Harris. It just has an amazing cast. The physical comedy is amazing. The comedic timing is just perfect. And this TV show is shot beautifully. It has an almost gothic look to it. It was just a pure joy to watch, really. Now, what can I say about the Umbrella Academy? Now, first of all, I'm a huge My Chemical Romance fan, so I was so excited when I heard Gerard Way's graphic comic novel was getting turned into a TV series. So the story revolves around a dysfunctional family of adopted siblings who all have superpowers. The Umbrella Academy has a kind of an X-Men meets Dirk Gently vibe to it. First season of this was pretty awesome, and the second season was even more incredible. I think with season 2 we got to see a lot more growth with a lot of the main characters, particularly Vanya and Ben, and season 2 has the best cliffhanger. And then we have BBC's Sherlock. Now, this is a modern retelling of the story of Sherlock Holmes, the private detective, obviously still based on the books written by Arthur Conan Doyle. This particular interpretation of Holmes tends to be the top favorite for most. Of course, this is starring the very talented Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. What I really loved about this series is the visual aids that are used to illustrate the inner workings of Sherlock's mind. I love the fact that we get to see certain items zoomed in upon as they are being investigated by Sherlock, showing us certain pieces of text and digits in order to show us Sherlock's art of deduction at play. What strikes me the most about his character is that his character is very Asperger's, and as someone who is on the spectrum myself, this is definitely something I appreciate. I really appreciate the representation. So check Sherlock out, the game is on. So I think I might turn this into a regular feature on this channel. Still got a lot of shows to watch. So have you seen any of these shows, or are there any shows that you think I should watch on either Netflix, Prime, Disney, whatever? If so, thoughts? Comment down below or video response. And until next time everyone, don't forget that nerds rule the world.